What's up? Welcome back to my channel, or for the first time if you're new, I'm Sylvan, and today I'm going to be reacting to Varka's animated short, another prologue. I am so incredibly hyped by this. I thought it was coming out tomorrow, but I'm here now, I'm excited, and I am just so desperate to see what we get here. It's nearly 7 minutes long. That is hype. I'm excited to see more of Varka, I'm excited to see more of the Hexenzirkel, I'm excited to see just any lore we get, but most of all, I'm just excited to see my boy go off a little bit. So, with that in mind, feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, and feel free to become a channel member if you want to support me just a little bit extra, and let's get into this.
You were telling us the tale of the blonde traveler who caused a disturbance in fate.
Us.
Where were we?
Varka. Despite opposition from the church, he approved the request to borrow the Holy Lyre.
Yo, different outfit, I love it.
Barbados and Varka went to Star Snatch Cliff to summon Dvalin. But Varka's wisecracking angered Dvalin.
A telling of the story.
Storm Terra's lair.
A telling of the story where he's the protagonist.
Broke the seal and entered the lair.
Interesting.
A fight to the death ensued between Varka and Dvalin, lasting one whole day and night.
Jesus.
If I'm not mistaken, fighting a real dragon was always Varka's greatest wish.
Of course it was.
In the end, Varka defeated Dvalin, but sadly, they were unable to free Dvalin from the clutches of the abyss. Barbados had no choice but to seal away the gravely wounded dragon.
Thus, the difference between us and him as the hero.
Varka was celebrated as a hero for resolving
we could save Dvalin, Varka could not.
After a long era of peace, Mondstadt was reminded once more how safe and courageous Grandmaster
we see a lot of people here.
Feel. All doubts about the old school knights were swept away.
Interesting.
Good for him.
That's not how the story went. He could have been the protagonist, but he wasn't.
It's hardly a perfect ending, though.
The little guys. Yep.
But
are they plotting the timeline,
Varka
the story?
Could easily have been the hero. So why did he go on the expedition?
Yeah.
Was it because of the disturbance in fate?
The disturbance in fate, huh?
The pact with the Hexenzirkel and the support of Barbatos made him feel safer
Barbeloth in person!
But of course, the real reason lies elsewhere. Do you remember when he requested to be the first challenger of the Hexenzirkel's trial?
Of course. Is that how things ended up with the pact with the Hexenzirkel?
I'm impressed.
So he took this test as well.
The trial. State your request.
You will come to our aid.
Request?
He just did this for the sake of it.
I hadn't thought about that. I just wanted to put my strength to the test.
Of course.
Maybe I could get a peek at your scry glass?
Oh?
He looked into your scry glass.
Oh.
But what could an ordinary human hope to see? Most people would see nothing.
But he saw something?
Within the scry glass is that which fate itself wishes to reveal to
Is
you.
this the reason for the expedition? What he saw in there?
What I can be sure of is that he saw a disaster.
A
calamity of abyssal origin has arisen in Nodcry.
Okay.
Its reach will soon extend to Mondstadt.
So he became aware of this.
This calamity is claiming many innocent lives, both in Nodcry and the outskirts of Snezhnaya.
Wow. So this has been the point of it all along. He meandered a lot then.
That's why Varka launched his expedition to Nodcry?
If that's the case, he meandered quite a bit.
He lost no time in taking action. Clearly there is substance behind his talk of chivalry. Barbie, don't tell me. This was you testing him.
Oh?
Fate showed him the way. I didn't need to.
Okay.
All I know is that he truly is worthy of the Hexenzirkel's support.
All right. I'm interested by Barbeloth's design, now seeing her in person for the first time.
In that case, I suppose he didn't see his destiny as a hero within the scry glass?
And thus he didn't take the protagonist role.
Otherwise,
I'm loving the Hexenzirkel motif in here.
Who would sacrifice the defining moment of their life to focus on the suffering of others.
Interesting.
Well, perhaps you underestimate him.
Maybe. I really like the touch that Nicole isn't talking. I love that as just a quirk of hers. But now we're to Nod Cry. Yep. All right, time to see some action. Fuck yeah. Yo, jumping off of the sword? Did he just jump off his own sword? Holy shit. You're in good hands alongside Varka.
Need a hand? That was rough. Never expected to run into the Wild Hunt here. You're the knights from Mondstadt, right?
Yep.
I know you. You're... Wait, what was it? Grand Master of the Knights of Favonius. Knight of Boreas. Varka.
Yeah, my boy. And then a drink around the campfire.
Oh, thanks for the wine. That's better.
And the Mondstadt
I gotta ask.
music
as the
comes
Grandmaster,
in.
Shouldn't you be back home enjoying the prestige and playing hero? Why are you out here roughing it like us mercs?
The question keeps coming. Why aren't you the hero? Why don't you play the hero?
Funny you should ask. I dreamed that life once.
What changed your mind?
We'll call it a dream. I brushed shoulders with a god.
Oh.
We fought tooth and nail against a real-life dragon. And then... got a hero's welcome when I returned triumphant. Raised a glass. And drank the night away.
Was he not fulfilled? So he had a dream of the same thing.
Hey, stop laughing. I'm telling you, that could have been me.
Interesting. So no clear answer of why he chose the direction he did. This is, despite its length, an actually very focused animated short, all things considered. It really is 3 scenes. The alternate telling of the prologue, hence the name Another Prologue, where it's Varka in the hero seat, the protagonist seat, rather than us. Then we have the scene of 3 witches discussing that version of the story, and Varka as a person and his character. And then finally, Varka in Nod Cry doing what he does best, helping people, fighting off the Wild Hunt, and then drinking around the campfire and pondering his choice. It really ties everything together around this one idea of who is Varka. He has the power and influence to have been the hero, to have been the protagonist of this story. It wouldn't have been the same story, but he could have stepped into that role. He even dreamed of it, but he chose a different path. The exact reason is a curious one that they don't give us a direct, concrete answer. We have a few guesses from the witches, but nothing directly from him. That's interesting. But to go through this more directly and thoroughly, we start with Alice saying, "You were telling us a tale of the blonde traveler who caused a disturbance in fate." And as this line is said, we have this image of the dual star, a representation of the siblings. But as Alice says, now, where were we? Preparing for the tale to continue, the dual stars are replaced with this symbol, and we enter the tale as if it were Varka in our role. From a certain perspective, he too is a blonde traveler. Perhaps not one who can create a disturbance in fate, and perhaps not a traveler within this version of the story. But in a certain perspective, he is. He's been on the expedition for a long time in the real order of events. But regardless, we see the order of events as if he were the protagonist begin to come into full swing. Picking up from about the halfway point in the story for Mondstadt. Rather than having to sneak in and steal the lyre only for the Fatui to get the upper hand against us and snatch it from our grasp, Varka, being the Grand Master, could simply make the request and take it, even with opposition from the church, thus cutting out an entire complication of the story. And from here, it continues on to the meeting with Dvalin, but where before it was the Abyss Mages who stopped this interaction from working. It was simply Varka flubbing a little bit with, as they call it, his wisecracking, and it angered Valen. It seems a lot of the outside influences and players did not get as directly involved this time, or at least not in the same ways. From here, things go largely as they were, distinctly the difference being throughout all of this that is just Varka and Venti. We see none of the other knights, and it's here that the battle between Varka and Dvalin occurs. But where with our power, the battle was big and dramatic, but quick, in Varka's case, it was a grueling battle lasting a whole day and night. He could not free Dvalin from the corruption, he could only stop Dvalin through force. And it's here from Barbeloth that we get the interesting nugget that supposedly fighting a real dragon was always Varka's greatest wish. A true warrior, someone who wishes to test their strength, fight legendary monsters. That was who Varka was. To an extent, who he still is. But this is where then the biggest distinction between Varka's tale and ours comes into being. We had the power to purify the abyssal corruption. Varka does not. He is but a powerful man. So where in our case, we were able to free them and they were able to come to their senses, here, Venti was forced to seal them away, wounded, barely alive, still suffering from the corruption, hoping that one day they could find a way to help Dvalin. And despite this sour note, we then have a almost unrealistic era of peace that is introduced, where Varka is revered as a hero, and faith in the Knights of Favonius is at an all-time high. Statues are raised of this man. And with that happy ending, the curtains close, and there's just the final comment from one of the witches. Good for him. The first setup that this is a happy ending for Varka, but not for the greater Teyvat. If he were a selfish man, one truly only out for glory and testing his own mettle, this would be his favorite outcome. But this is not the story as it goes. He did not choose that path. And from here we enter the Witches' Tea Party, this time in attendance being Alice, Nicole, and Barbeloth. The two witches we have seen in person before, and now a third we finally see the actual appearance of. And it's here that we see they have little Dodecos dressed up, playing out the story, essentially. All dressed up and color-coded to their roles. And it's here, having exited the story itself, Alice acknowledges it's hardly a perfect ending, though. Varka may gain glory and achieve his greatest wish to fight an honest-to-God dragon, and an era of peace may begin in Mondstadt, but Dvalin suffers, sealed away, and the rest of Teyvat lacks a traveler to be a unique variable in those scenarios as well. But despite this not being a perfect ending, Nicole wonders, why did Varka not choose this route? Why did he decide to go on the expedition? He could have been the hero. He could have had the glory. And her first thought is it has to do with the disturbance in fate. Perhaps referencing back to the opening lines saying the blonde traveler who created a disturbance in fate. Did Varka go off on the expedition because he recognized, due to his connection to the Hexen Circle, that fate was changing due to our appearance and influence shortly after he leaves? But then Barbeloth, giving us a proper look at her, explains some of the reasoning she sees. Between the pact with the Hexen Circle and the presence of Barbatos, he felt safer leaving Mondstadt for a time. There were those who could defend his homeland in his absence. But she also acknowledges that is not the whole reason. Just because he felt safe to leave does not prove motivation enough to leave. But before we move on to her continued explanation, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge her design. She seems neat. I'm curious to see her in-game as an actual model. Curious to see more of her, of course. I know definitely some people are going to be disappointed that she doesn't look older, but I'm honestly not surprised that she doesn't. Either way, though, it is cool to see her actually in person. We're beginning to get drip-fed the true appearance of various witches one at a time here, and I'm quite happy with that. We really are approaching the late stages of the game for like what we know of future characters and stuff, and that is super incredibly exciting. But getting back to her explanation of Varka's reasoning to begin his expedition and not be the hero, she reminds them of when he requested to challenge the Hexen Circle's trial, something we undertook not too long ago in the grand scheme of things. And moving into this memory we see the aftermath of his battle, seeing he's panting exhausted, but relatively unharmed, it seems, as Barbeloth congratulates him and asks what his request is. To which we learn he didn't have a request. He never thought that far. He just wanted to test his strength. But after thinking about it for a moment, he comes to the idea of getting a peek at Barbeloth's scryglass, which, as we are then told here, normally a ordinary human wouldn't understand anything from that. They wouldn't be able to see anything of real note or merit in the scryglass. So why did he ask? Why did he want to see into it? Pure curiosity or something more? And Barbeloth expands on this. Ordinary people would not see anything. Though there is the caveat that all they could see if they saw anything is what fate wants them to see, what fate wishes to reveal to them. So if Varka saw something, which it seems he did, it was because fate itself wanted him to see this. And Barbeloth is sure that he saw something. And what she knows of what he saw is that it was of an impending disaster. A calamity of abyssal origin that has arisen in Nodcry that will soon reach Mondstadt. We know this to be the Wild Hunt, something that for the past 500 years has festered and grown and caused chaos. But more notably so, as we know from the special program, is set to spread as far as Mondstadt in the near future. So before Varka had even set out on his expedition, he knew that this abyssal corruption would someday reach his homeland. And with this now in mind, Nicole posits, I suppose that's why he made the expedition to Nodcry. Something that on the surface makes sense, and I would agree with to an extent. Though I would not be surprised if he saw something more in that scryglass, or that he has other reasons on top of that to have gone on this expedition. Because as we know, this expedition has lasted a long time, and Nodcry was not his first stop on that expedition. Or at least as far as we know it wasn't. It's where the expedition has settled, and where he's made the biggest impact as far as we know. But he was wandering Teyvat with the expedition for a long time. If his sole motivation was stopping the Wild Hunt before it could reach Mondstadt, he could have gone about it much more efficiently. And in conjunction with this, the fact that Alice says he lost no time in taking action serves in contrast to that fact. As soon as he learned of this future, of this impending calamity approaching Mondstadt, he was quick to act. He launched the expedition, gathered the resources and people, and set out. But clearly without fully telling the people of Mondstadt the full reason. So in my mind, there has to be something more to it. He's presented here as someone who does not waste time idly when a threat rises, as someone who saw something in the scryglass that included this disaster, but may not be limited to that. And he spent far longer than otherwise necessary journeying to Vat with the expedition. It is entirely possible this is just a story lore oversight, but I hope and believe that it very well might be there is more to what he saw in that scryglass. But with this in mind, Alice acknowledges that there is validity to his chivalry. It is not just all talk, but then pokes and prods at Barbeloth, asking if she was testing him, but she responds, fate showed him the way. She didn't need to test him. Fate showed him what he saw. Fate has guided him this direction. Barbeloth only needed to show him the scryglass, and fate took over from there. And on top of this, Barbeloth acknowledges him, stating that he truly is worthy of the Hexencircle's support. He passed their trial. He's proven himself chivalrous. He's a powerful, capable, kind, and just man. That is what the witches have come to claim about him, to believe him to be. But that is not the end of the conversation. Nicole is still stuck on the thought of why he started the expedition, why he chose to not be the hero. And here she posits, I suppose he didn't see his destiny as the hero within the scryglass. Fate showed him a different destiny, because otherwise why would he turn it down? If he had no knowledge that we would come and become the hero in his place, why would this great and powerful man who seeks to test his strength and seeks to battle a dragon someday turn this destiny down unless he learned his destiny was on a different trajectory? And it's here that we get one of the more interesting lines in this animated short. Why would someone sacrifice the defining moment of their life to focus on the suffering of others? That's an interesting line to me, because what she's saying here is that him being the hero, him saving Mondstadt from Storm Terror, even in the imperfect way we saw it, that would have been the defining moment of his life. These stories that would be told of him in history would have been him saving Mondstadt from the dangerous evil dragon, fighting alongside the god of wind Barbados, and achieving victory in a battle that lasts a day and a night. That is who he would have been if that was the path he took. But it is not the path he took. He chose a different path, whether because he saw that it was not his fate or for any other reason. But within that, if that would have been his defining moment, who's to say this other path, his choice to focus on the suffering of others, is not in itself a defining moment of its own? In the aftermath of this expedition, in the aftermath of him stopping the wild hunt from spreading to Mondstadt or whatever he specifically achieves, would that not too be a defining moment? It would define him in a different way, but it would still define him, and in a way that perhaps would make him even more heroic, more righteous. And I think that falls in line with Barbalot's response to Nicole. Perhaps you underestimate him. Do you truly think that that would have defined his life? Do you truly think that choosing this other path will not bring him to greater heights? Do you truly think so little of him as he is just a normal man that he would objectively always choose personal glory over helping others? He may be more than that. And it's with that thought that we move away from the tea party of the witches up in the sky down to the tangible, real impact that Varka makes in the world. The actions he is taking that define him in the real world. He has come to Nodcry. He stands to fight the wild hunt wherever it is, to save those that would be its victims. And so we see a brief battle between one of the more powerful members of the wild hunt and Varka, followed by Varka helping up this random mercenary who would have died without his aid, who he recognizes Varka. He has heard of him. Varka's legend has spread far and wide. The Knight of Boreas is known beyond the borders of Mondstadt, and to an extent that means that his glory reaches further than it ever would have if he played the hero in Mondstadt. And we are shown how this legend spreads through both the people he saves and the very same people he welcomes into his camp to drink with him. And it's here that this merc brings up the same question that Nicole did. Why did he choose to leave home rather than staying in Mondstadt, enjoying the prestige and playing hero? He could have had a comfortable life, where he made one grand achievement and then sat back and relaxed for the rest of his life. Perhaps testing his strength whenever he can, but never going out of his way beyond helping those of his homeland. Why did he not choose that? Why does he instead choose to go out to Nodcry, to venture out to other lands, to rough it out like a mercenary? And Varka is slow to answer that. He remains quiet for a long time, drinking from his cup, muttering through his response, before finally admitting that he did dream of a life like that once. He dreamed of being the hero, of fighting a dragon, of saving his homeland and ushering in an era of peace. But then he slightly corrects himself. He says, well, we'll call it a dream. Was this perhaps not truly his dream? Or was it perhaps something different, something more? Is it possible that what he saw within the scryglass were two paths he could take? One leading him down the path of a hero, as we saw in the other prologue at the beginning here, and the other being him journeying to Nodcry, starting the expedition, seeking after this grander goal that we are not completely, truly privy to. And did he choose that because it was the better choice for everyone? Or did he choose it because he felt he would be more fulfilled in that? Would he, seeing the era of peace he would bring to Mondstadt, not feel fulfilled? Feel he could do more? Or is there truly some greater calamity beyond even what we understand from the outside perspective that he recognized as far too great a threat to put himself first, and thus willingly put his dream aside to take up the blade and journey out into distant lands for this greater purpose? It's hard to say. But interestingly enough here, on top of this, the dream he describes perfectly matches the basic details of the other prologue from the beginning. Brushing shoulders with a god, fighting tooth and nail against a real-life dragon. This is what points me to this idea that perhaps this was a fate that he could have gone down, a destiny he could have had, but not the fate he chose for whatever reason. But as we close out of the animated short, we get no answer to why he didn't choose this life, why he didn't follow that dream. The Merc just laughs as he's like, come on, it could have been me, I could have done that. I mean, don't truly get that answer. There is more to Varka, more to why he did this, and I imagine it's something we will learn probably in his story quest, probably in his face-off against the Bloodstained Knight, and through that, the Wild Hunt as it invades Mondstadt as predicted. But that is something we will have to wait and see to truly know. For now, we are simply left with a question and a hypothetical version of events, and I super love it. It is super intriguing to see this alternate version of events, and then to ask this question, why didn't he take this path? There's something to Varka that we don't know yet, and I can't wait to find out. But with that, I think I'll leave things here. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, and very special thanks to all of my channel members, including Amorphosilica, Dweller, Pokelove101, and Unusual Echo at the normal tier, and Kano Nano at the cool person tier. Really appreciate your support, as always, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye!